What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. It's that time again. We have a new set of the Pokemon trading card game coming out, which is Evolving Skies. And so today I'm going to count down my top 10 cards of the set for the standard format of the Pokemon trading card game. Please let me know in the comments down below what cards you are excited about and what you think the best cards of the set are, as I am going to give you my personal top 10 list for Evolving Skies. Before we get into the video, shout out to my sponsor, PotownStore.com, the best place to get ptcgo codes, and be sure to use code CELIO for 5% off to support my content. Also, shout out to PokemonCard.io, where you can find all of my standard format deck lists, and when Evolving Skies comes out on ptcgo on August 26th and in real life on August 27th, I will start building decks and I'll have my new Evolving Skies decks shared over there at PokemonCard.io. Before we hop into the video, I'd also like to remind you to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content if you enjoy the content, and also leave a like and a comment, as that helps my video reach more new viewers. Now let's get into my top 10 cards from Evolving Skies. Starting out our list at number 10 is Zinnias Resolve, a new supporter card that reads you can play this card only if you discard 2 other cards from your hand. Draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, and that does include bench and active, so you can draw a maximum of 6 new cards from your deck for playing this card and discarding 2 other cards from your hand. So I'm ranking this at number 10 because I do think this is a good supporter card in a vacuum, and I do think it will see play. I don't think it's better than Professor's Research, which always discards your hand and draws 7, but I do think it is good supplemental draw in addition to Professor's Research, or possibly playing a lower count of Professor's Research and some Zinnias Resolve if you are playing a deck with a lot of pieces that you don't always want to discard, since Zinnias Resolve allows you to choose what to discard from your hand, whereas Professor's Research forces you to discard your entire hand. I think that as time goes on, if Professor's Research rotates out of Standard next year without being reprinted with an E regulation mark, then Zinnias Resolve might end up seeing a ton of play. But for now, I think it will be seen in a few decks as a 2 or 3 count, not really replacing Professor's Research, but being played alongside of it. Next, at number 9, I have Sylveon Vmax, which is a Rapid Strike Psychic Vmax Pokemon. Now, Sylveon Vmax, I should mention, evolves from Sylveon V, of course, which has a nice ability, Dream Gift, that allows you to search your deck for an item card, put it into your hand, and then end your turn. Self is unfortunately not making my top 10 list, but does play somewhat of a part in influencing me to put Sylveon Vmax here on the top 10 list. Sylveon Vmax does have 2 attacks, but I have not seen much use of Precious Touch in my testing or others' testing with this card. Precious Touch for a Psychic Energy reads, attach an energy card from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. If you do, heal 120 damage from that Pokemon. This is an interesting attack. I'm sure it will be used in some niche scenarios if you're playing Aurora Energy or Spiral Energy, but it is not the main point of the card. Max Harmony for 3 colorless energy does 70 damage plus 30 more damage for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. If you have 5 different types of Pokemon on your bench, that would be plus 150 damage for a total of 220 damage, which is comfortably 2-shotting any VMAX Pokemon and typically 1-shotting any V basic Pokemon that does not have additional health from something like Cape of Toughness or Big Charm. Notably, Sylveon Vmax hits Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax for weakness, so Max Harmony, even with just 4 different types of Pokemon on your bench, will one-hit knockout a Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax, which is being revered as one of the best cards fronting one of the best decks of the upcoming Sword and Shield through Evolving Skies standard format. I think Sylveon Vmax has a number of small things going for it. It has colorless attack costs for its main attack, which means it can use Rapid Strike energy plus any other kind of energy, whether that be a fighting energy if it's paired with Urshifu, a dark energy if it's paired with Galarian Moltres, or even a capture energy in addition to the Rapid Strike energy that's attached to it. It's Psychic type, which means its basic version could be searched with Fog Crystal if you're playing that in your deck. It also means that it is hitting Rapid Strike Urshifu and Single Strike Urshifu, both for weakness. And of course, as I mentioned, we can use Rapid Strike Energy to fulfill the attack costs for Max Harmony, or Spiral Energy to fulfill the attack cost for Precious Touch, because Sylveon Vmax is a Rapid Strike Pokemon, and that means it's also going to work well with Tower of Waters and Octillery, which both benefit playing Rapid Strike cards in a Rapid Strike focused deck. For number 8, I have chosen Metacham V, which is a Rapid Strike V Pokemon that is Fighting type, and specifically for its Yoga Loop attack. Yoga Loop costs 2 colorless energy, and it reads, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now this is very weak and seems very simple, but it gets very strong and a little complicated. It also reads, if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by this attack, those 2 damage counters, take another turn after this one. And then if one of your Pokemon used Yoga Loop during your last turn, this attack cannot be used. So Yoga Loop, if you do set up the right amount of damage counters in previous turns with things like Rapid Strike Urshifu's Gale Thrust or Rapid Flow and Inteleon's Quick Shooting, Yoga Loop in the right scenario can give you an entire extra turn after taking a knockout, which is an incredible effect. Now, some players have also discussed using this with Melanie, maybe in like an Ice Rider deck, or even just tossing it into any kind of deck that might leave things with a little bit of HP left over and can clean it up with Yoga Loop, but that can also get energy onto Metacham for Yoga Loop, maybe like a Flappy deck or anything that is playing Raihan. So Metacham V has an incredible effect given that the situation is right for Yoga Loop. I think this card is going to be very good in Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax decks, and it might even find its way into some other archetypes. Next, we have one of my favorite cards from this set at number 7, Leafeon V, which is a Grass-type basic V Pokemon with 200 HP. Leafeon V's ability Greening Cells reads, once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Grass Energy card and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Then your turn ends. I think this ability is incredibly well designed, and it is also good for a number of different archetypes. I have even seen some Japanese deck lists include Leafeon V and a handful of Grass Energy into non-grass focused decks, just to get Leafeon V down on turn 1 and accelerate an extra Grass Energy card onto the board with the ability Greening Cells. The 2 decks that I have already tried with Leafeon V include a Leafeon Vmax deck based around Leafeon Vmax as the main attacker, and also a Delmise Vmax with some other grass Pokemon as support, because this Greening Cells ability just works really well in both of these cases, and Leafeon V is one of the reasons why I think Leafeon Vmax will be a successful deck in the post-rotation standard format. At number 6, I have my first mention of the return of Dragon Pokemon in Evolving Skies with Altaria, a Stage 1 Dragon Pokemon with 90 HP. That 90 HP is actually pretty important because it means Level Ball, which can search for any Pokemon with 90 HP or less, can be used to search out both Swablu, the basic form of Altaria, and Altaria itself. Altaria, while only doing 60 damage with Glide, not very impressive there from Altaria, has the ability Tempting Tune. Tempting Tune reads, once during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, shuffle your deck, then put that card on top of the deck. We've seen some abilities like this in the past that either put a specific kind of card on top of the deck or just any card on top of the deck. But Altaria itself pairs well with 2 other cards that we have in the format with it. We have Aranguru, which has the Primate Wisdom ability that can switch to top card of your deck with a card from your hand, therefore drawing that supporter card that you just put on top of it with Tempting Tune. And there is also Suicune V that is coming out in Evolving Skies that can just draw a card if it's in the active position. So you can just draw that supporter card that you put up there with Tempting Tune, whether that is a research to draw 7 cards or a boss's orders to even potentially win the game by bringing something up and knocking it out. Tempting Tune is going to be a very strong ability and something to consider when deck building, and you might need a little bit more support to get your deck going. We've got Flappy next at number 5, and Flappy is almost an exact reprint of an electric card from the past. It has the ability Dynamotor. Once during your turn, you may attach a lightning energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. We've seen plenty of stage 1 Pokemon like this in the past that accelerate energy from the discard or somewhere else to your Pokemon, and they're typically always very good because you can almost always find a partner for these regardless of the typing that they focus on. Flappy, of course, focusing on lightning energy cards, can work with any Pokemon needing lightning energy or colorless energy to fulfill their attack costs. Flappy does pair very well with a certain large dragon Pokemon that is coming out in this set as well, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but Flappy, very good. It does hinge on the potential of the Pokemon around it, because Flappy is not good on its own. It does need other Pokemon to actually have strong attacks to use. But like I said, you can almost always find partners for these kinds of energy accelerators, and Dynamotor is such a good ability. We've seen time and time again that Flappy just has to make this top 10 list for me. Next, I've got Sciune V, which is another card I'm quite fond of out of Evolving Skies. Sciune V is a basic V Pokemon, water type with 210 HP. It has the ability Fleet-Footed. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may draw a card. Now that is not very strong on its own, but Sciune V is water type, which means it has synergy with Melanie and synergy with Ice Rider Calyrex Vmax, which are both very strong cards that are already a deck that Sciune V can just fit nicely into. Like I mentioned, Fleet-Footed works with Altaria well to put a supporter on top and then draw it with Fleet-Footed, but Sciune V also has a very good and very efficient attack in Blizzard Rondo. For a water and colorless energy, it does 20 damage plus 20 more for each benched Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So if you have a full bench, you're doing a minimum of 120. And then if your opponent has a full bench, you're doing a maximum of 220 with Blizzard Rondo, two-shotting anything in the game with that 220 damage. I expect that we will see Sciune V perform well in its own decks and also in Ice Rider Calyrex Vmax decks. Going into the top 3, we have a supporter card, Raihan. Raihan reads, you can only play this card if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. That is a big circumstance to meet, because you cannot control when your opponent knocks something out. But the effect is, attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for any card. That's incredibly powerful, and specifically in Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax decks, this means you can accelerate a basic energy to your Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax, and search your deck for the Rapid Strike energy, which is very important and you can only play 4 of, attach that as your manual attachment for turn, and get a rapid flow attack out of nowhere. Of course, this can work with just about any deck and any card, and help you accelerate energy and also search for any other card that's in your deck that you need. So I expect Raihan to be a very powerful card and a very pivotal card when it is played at the correct times. At number 2, we've got the poster boy of the set, Rayquaza Vmax. Now, I know some of you might be saying, wait a second, this is number 2? Yes, it's number 2, but it was a very close race for the top 2, okay? Rayquaza Vmax still a very, very, very strong card. Could be number 1 on some people's lists. Mine, it is just number 2, but like I said, that's very good because I think very highly of this card. Rayquaza Vmax is a Dragon-type Pokemon, 320 HP, Rapid Strike Vmax. It has the ability Azure Pulse, which reads, once during your turn, you may discard your hand and draw 3 cards. What's great about that is it doesn't say you can only use 1 Azure Pulse a turn. You can use as many of these as you want. If you have 4 Rayquaza Vmaxes, you can do that 4 times. That is very powerful. So it has built-in consistency, which is very good. Its one attack is Max Burst. For fire and lightning, it does 20 damage. You may discard any amount of basic fire energy or any amount of basic lightning energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 80 more damage for each card you discarded in this way. So if you discard 3 fire or lightning energy, it does 260. If you discard 4, it does 340, essentially knocking out just about anything. Rayquaza Vmax is very strong, but not on its own. It needs some sort of engine like Flappy, which we looked at earlier, or Rose, or a combination of the two. I do think Rayquaza Vmax has a target on its back because Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax can hinder it by knocking out its Flaffies. Some decks can run Path to the Peak to shut off Azure Pulse. But we cannot ignore that this card is inherently very powerful and has its own consistency built in, which we know is such a strong attribute to have on a Pokemon card. So Rayquaza VMAX, one of the absolute best cards from the set, but my number one has to be Umbreon Vmax. Umbreon Vmax, the only single strike card to make it onto the list, but it is number one. Umbreon Vmax is a dark single strike Vmax Pokemon with 310 HP, and it has the ability Dark Signal, which is carrying it all the way up to this number one spot on my top 10 Evolving Skies list. Dark Signal reads, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with their active Pokemon. We've seen this ability printed on other Pokemon in the past that have a pretty good attack to pair with it, and they've always been successful and popular and very strong in their respective formats. I don't think Umbreon Vmax will be an exception to that rule. I expect this card to be played as soon as it comes out and played until it rotates out of standard format. Being dark type and being able to hit for 160 damage is very good for it because Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax has 320 HP and is weak to dark. So Max Darkness hits Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax for a clean one-shot knockout. Umbreon Vmax was also technically the best performing card from our Evolving Skies set over in Japan for their national championships, where an Umbreon Vmax Welder deck got second place. And first place was a Shadow Rider Alchemy deck with no new cards from our Evolving Skies set in it. So Umbreon Vmax already showed its power and its potential over in Japan since they had the cards prior to us. And in my testing, Umbreon Vmax is still a threat in the post-rotation standard format. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to let me know what cards from Evolving Skies you are excited for. If you need any information or help regarding the Pokemon trading card game, like the standard format, how to build a deck, or how to enter online or real-life tournaments, please leave it in the comments down below or find a video on my channel that already touches on the subject. But if you need help, please let me know and I'll get back with a comment or even create some content regarding the topic. That's all I have for you today. Please subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and shout out to PotownStore.com and PokemonCard.io for being my lovely sponsors. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.